It's Dr. Lucy here. How are you? 8:03. That's pretty good for me. So you can see I'm doing keto, not in the car. Today I'm following on from our insulin discussion that we've had for the last couple of days. So you'll know on Monday I talked about insulin being a fat storage hormone. And on Tuesday, I talked about insulin being a growth hormone and a risk for cancer, and the reason that we get little skin tags and things like that on our skin if we've got high insulin. So today I'm going to talk to you about how do you know what your insulin is. And the only way to do it is to test it by blood. Now, people go, well, what test should I do? So there's a couple of options. The first, if you've been low carb for a long time, a couple of months, then the only test I recommend is a fasting insulin. And we can put that into a formula called HOMA IR. So we look at your insulin, glucose, and lipids and calculate a formula out. If you're not low carb, if you're just cruising along thinking, yes, I want to lose some weight soon, I would like to know what my insulin is, then the test that we use is called a glucose tolerance test. And a lot of you will have had it. If you're a woman who's had a baby, a lot of you will have had that during pregnancy. And it's not the world's most lovely test. It's time consuming, and you do have to drink a glucose drink, but it's incredibly valuable for information. It gives you our fasting insulin. It gives you the next 1 hour mark, which should be a little bit higher, and then it'll give you the 2 hour mark, by which stage it should be coming down. So it follows a curve, upside down sort of curve, like a hill. Now, some people have no hill, they just have an uphill incline. So at 2 hours, their insulin is still increasing. A lot of people have a massive, Mount Everest type hill. You will have no idea what your insulin levels are unless we test them. So the test it's a glucose tolerance test with insulin levels. Some people call it an insulin curve. It's also known as a Kraft test. So I know that's getting a little bit technical, but honestly, the majority of doctors don't order this test. I'm always ordering them. I order it all the time because I want to know how much is your pancreas working? How hard is it pumping? How hard is it having to work to get insulin out? The glucose won't tell you, because your glucose hopefully is normal if the pancreas is doing its job. So that gives me and you an idea on basically how many padlocks are locking your woodshed. Because if you're very insulin resistant, then it's going to take a little time to reverse that. And so for people who are wanting to lose weight, they get disappointed when nothing starts happening in the first week. Again, it's conditioning. We're conditioned. Lose a kilo a week for 10 weeks. Doesn't work like that. We have to know what your insulin is doing. If it's very high to start with, it's going to take a bit longer to open your shed. It's going to take longer for you to have that wonderful feeling where you're not hungry. But if you don't start now, then it's just going to get worse and worse. So the numbers, and again, you don't have to take notes or anything, but the numbers, the ideal numbers, and they are different to the reference range in blood tests. Okay, so ideal numbers. I am hoping to see insulin around about 8. Now, insulin is a pulsatile hormone, which means it doesn't just come out as one number, it pulses out. Oh, look at my hand doing that. Looks fancy, doesn't it? So it depends a little bit on where you are in the pulse. You might be 8 and that's your maximum. You might be 8 and that's your minimum. So it's only rough. But then again, if you're having the insulin curve, we see the top number, which honestly should be a maximum of 45, and then down to 30. Now, I see all sorts of numbers. I see fasting insulin in the 90s. I've seen a 1 and a 2 hour insulin in the 500s. Massive insulin resistance. Very good pancreas, trying very hard to protect its owner from getting type 2 diabetes. And this man didn't have diabetes because his pancreas was helping him. But he did have a huge problem with weight. So I guess what I'm saying is that know your numbers. There's a lovely person I know who tells me that all the time. Know your numbers. So if you go and ask your doctor. Your doctor may not be aware of this test. Make them aware. Just say, I would like to know my insulin curve. And again, I guess my caveat is don't do it if you're already low carb or you've been low carb for a considerable amount of time. And it would be like giving a bottle of wine to somebody who's cut down wine to once a month. Can you imagine the response? It's completely hijacked and it's not accurate. So that's why I don't do it if you've been low carb. A, the test is extremely unpleasant, but B, it's not accurate. So I guess that's enough. I'm banging on a bit, but I really, really, really want you guys to understand insulin is the major driver of fat storage. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk briefly about calories. And I guess this is our passion at Real Life Medicine. This is what we love. We love helping people understand their hormones. And the fact that the word hormones encompasses so much in our body. Most people, when they think of hormones, they just think of woman hormones, estrogen and progesterone. They are one small pathway. Everything in our whole body is controlled by hormones. All right, darlings. See you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Bye now.